we are in Geneva, New York, and we're here to sit down with City Manager Matt Horn, who's going to tell us about the award they just received, the All-America City. Also, I think he's going to share with us what's coming up on our lakefront and other amazing things that are happening in Geneva. So how did it go about where you guys were you nominated for this award, or how did that happen?
Yeah, so it's a pretty historical award. They've done, I think this was the 66th year that they've done it. And I've watched it in a number of communities I've worked in. I've worked in a half dozen or so communities around the country. And it's a really prestigious award. And so each community I worked in, I kind of sat down and tried to pull together a good storyline. And none of them ever really fit with the All-America City Award. It's really based in community involvement, community engagement. How do you put your residents to work on problems that are facing the community? And so Geneva's got a great storyline along those lines. So back in January we started the application process, which was about a 40-page nomination form. And so we focused in on three key areas. One was the Geneva 2020 program, which is our collective impact program to raise the stakes in the school district and move the needle on graduation rates and a couple of other things. We also looked at our downtown revitalization efforts, which we've seen a huge success in, but more focused than that on the shop local, buy local initiatives and this Love Geneva concept that's really driven from grassroots up and not the other way around. And then finally on our neighborhood revitalization efforts, which were started actually back in 2008, but since then we've pulled together 10 neighborhood associations. Last year they logged 2,400 volunteer hours in support of park improvements and helping their neighbors out with housing improvements. So it was a great storyline to talk about what neighbors and residents and business owners are doing to move Geneva forward. And it turned out that it was in perfect alignment with the National Civic League's nomination process. So we found out in March that we were a finalist. I think there were about 140 applicants. We were one of 16 finalists.
Wow.
And then,
congratulations.
Then one of 10 award winners. Yeah, it was great.
That's amazing. Now, I know the graduation rate in Geneva has gone from, like 60% in 1999 to 85% now. Is that correct?
Yeah, huge swing. And we set our target at 90%. And more importantly, we set our target at 90% across the spectrum. So today we're at 85%, 84.8% of all students at Geneva High School. And what we'd like to do in the future is drill down to some specific groups like economically disadvantaged students, non-English speaking students, and so forth, to make sure that we're moving the needle on all of those groups. And the ultimate goal is 90% across the board, but we're really close on our 90% marker for school-wide.
Yeah, that's a tremendous growth. Congratulations on that.
Yeah, it's a community effort. This collective impact model, this Geneva 2020 concept, started with actually Mark Guerin had attended a lecture on it and read some material on Cincinnati, which was another city that had a real challenge with their school districts. And they called the model collective impact because it's generally not one person or one agency doing the work. It's all the community's agencies kind of focused on one set of goals. And our goals were moving the needle on graduation rate, college and career readiness, so getting our kids ready to do what they want to do when they're out of school. And then literacy. Some staggering statistics about if you're not reading at grade level by the third grade, your chances of graduating from high school decline by 25%. And then each year that it goes on like that, it's further and further. Your course is set by 6th grade if you haven't started hitting the mark on that.
Wow.
And so we're really focused on that third grade achievement level. The colleges, again, have been spectacular about bringing students onto campus. I think every 3rd, 6th, and 9th grader goes to campus so they can see.
That's great.
Yeah, they can see what college is like. I mean, if you've never set foot on a college campus, you might have a different idea about what you can and can't do. Yeah. And so they go to developmentally appropriate programming across the board. Everyone's favorite is lunch. They go to the Scanlning Center and have lunch,
which is delicious.
Absolutely, I'd go there every day if I could. Yeah. So, but the kids get a taste for that. They get it, so to speak, and they get a real feel for what college classrooms are like and what the facilities are like, and it helps them set a vision for themselves. So We think it's an important part of the program, and it's just another way that, without having to write a check, you can contribute. I know, but there are people in the community who are writing checks.
Yes.
One of the banks donated lab coats, or donated funding to buy lab coats for our biotech students. There's so many examples. I think we had a wish list of a couple of hundred items, and the community came out in droves to support that, and so it's been really spectacular.
That's fantastic, and I know that a part of this is really making the community get involved and take pride in the city of Geneva. And I know there's the Love Geneva quote that you use a lot, and I know there's bumper stickers and shirts that people are wearing, and it's really neat to see people get involved within their community.
Yeah, and growing up around here, you probably know some of our harshest critics have been from within. People who are from Geneva who never really realized, I guess, kind of how good you've got it. When you're here, you can get immersed in some of the challenges and not really look around and see what your assets are. And so, City Council said, a couple of years ago, pride of place is going to be one of our top goals. And we've always had in place, or for a long time, we've had in place these economic development agencies like the BID and the IDA and every other initial you can think of. But where it really started to take off was when the businesses started taking care of their own. This shop local movement. Love Geneva came about in the last 5 years, and their thought process was things like at Christmas time, if you just spend half of the money you were going to spend on Christmas downtown, what that might mean. And they've done some great infographics on where the money goes when you spend $1 at Walmart or Sam's Club versus where it goes if you spend it at Area Records or some other, how much of it stays in the community and how much of it leaves. And it took root, and our fourth quarter sales tax numbers from last year were the best they've been in 20 years, just in terms of our percentage in the county and our growth against the previous year. So we've seen a lot of people they do a program called Cash Mobs, where one Saturday morning they'll just say, hey, instead of going to Lowe's or instead of going to Home Value, go to Church's down on Exchange Street for your hardware stuff. And these businesses were reporting the best business days they've seen, whether it was at Church's or any other business that they highlighted. And really, it's just you put it on your list. Oh, I was going to go here or go there, but I'm going to go downtown now instead. And the Geneva Night Out program, which has been spectacular. That program, believe it or not, started in February. 2 years ago, started in February. And even me personally, I was like, I'm such a weather wimp. I was like, we're going to do an outdoor art crawl in February. What is this? They're coming up on their third year, and every single month they haven't missed one event, and they've done some really cool things. And every month it gets bigger, and people are staying in Geneva and hanging out downtown. It's a really great feeling.
It's great. Well, Geneva downtown is gorgeous. I know it's grown a lot in the past. Since I've been here, I've actually only been in Geneva for 10 years. My husband was born and raised, but in 10 years, it's amazing to see how beautiful it's become and how much pride people are taking in the area. They're really investing their time and energy and money in Geneva. So
that's a big deal. I mean, we looked at, in 2008, we did a survey of first floor spaces in downtown, and we found we were over 50% vacant in the downtown in 2008. Since then, we did another survey at the end of last year, and we were less than 20% vacant. And now it's getting even tighter, to the point where it's getting frictional. People are coming to town saying, I'd like to buy a building, but I can't find one that's for sale, or I can't find a space to put my business, because people want to be here. We've got, just on Linden Street, we've got 4 new businesses that have either opened in the last 6 months or are going to open in the next 6 months. A cool little spot where you can get a glass of wine or cupcake or whatever. It's a really neat spot. We're looking at more upper story development, people wanting to live downtown, market rate apartments just skyrocketing in the downtown. 10 and 12 at a time just being released and getting snapped up so that there's no vacancies in these upper floors. So it's really neat. Hobart and William Smith relocated their offices, their administrative offices downtown, which puts feet on the street at lunchtime, so the restaurants are full, the gift shops are buzzing. We've also done, Lions National Bank announced they're going to do their operations center right here in our backyard. Another 50 employees in downtown. Which really means something to a local merchant, particularly a restaurant person or a retail person, to have a couple of hundred people down here all day, every day.
Oh yeah, it's great. Fantastic. And I know that they're doing a lot with the lakefront too. So can you tell us about what's coming up around the corner?
Sure. Well, we've done, just in the last couple of years, we finished our Visitor and Events Center, which was really a project that was envisioned way back in 2008. We've done a lot of work on it, and it morphed a couple of times. Senator Nozzolio had secured a couple of $1 million for us to get started on that project, and then the Regional Economic Development Council came through with another $500,000. So now we've got this world-class 5,000 square foot ballroom, catering kitchen. We've got a firm that's operating that. They've already done a couple dozen events over there in the last year and a half. They've got even more booked all the way into 2016 now. They're starting to get cramped in 2016 for wedding dates, weddings, corporate events. So that was kind of the first arrow, if you will, that we fired down there, and it's really working well. It's got a visitor center attached to it, so that folks who are walking along the lakefront want to find out what there is to do in Geneva. There's a ton of information. It's open 7 days a week. But then we started working on our shoreline, which I always thought, again, you take a walk down, you're from out of town, you take a walk down, you think about this beautiful, I call it the 40-mile-an-hour view. You're walking along and you're like, man, this is great. But when you slowed down, you started to see some signs of aging on the shoreline with some of the infrastructure. So we went in, gutted all of that, and put in new infrastructure along the shoreline, new pathways. One of the weird things about Seneca Lake was always that Geneva was kind of up here and the lake was down here. So we're a little standoffish about the water. And I took my kids and my dog down there this weekend, and they, for the first time, could walk the steps right down to the water, get their feet wet, splash around a little bit. Get back on the trail, and you can go all the way now to Seneca Falls. It's the trail connects all the way to Seneca Falls. So that was kind of our first shoreline project. We've got plans, and we've funded plans to go all the way up to the Ramada with similar improvements. And then we're going to dig right back in. The state's been so generous. We've received grant funds 3 years in a row, all in now about $2.5 million in state funding, along with $2.5 million of local funding. But we're going to keep coming back. We've been successful. We're going to demonstrate that, and we're going to keep competing for funding for those projects.
Wow. Well, you're doing a fantastic job. I'm so glad you're our city manager, and I know that Geneva is glad too. Thank you for all that you're doing, and congratulations on being the new All-America City.
Well, thank you. It's a community honor, so we owe it all to the residents, but we appreciate you covering it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Matt.
Thanks
for meeting with us.
Yeah, sure.